And I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care about due process for people who are not legal citizens. I certainly don't care about due process for people who are fleeing to this country because of their violent gang activity. I don't care if you have children. As a matter of fact, I think our policy needs to ensure that you are not incentivized to start a family as a violent felon in this country as a method of remaining here. This is something that the media has been running with. And we knew that this would happen when we're talking about deportations with Donald Trump. The media was just going to, they were going to comb through all of it and try and find one example of one innocent, one wrongfully charged or deported person. We knew that was going to happen. Here's the good news. They couldn't find one, so they made one up. Let me get to the facts regarding the story that I know you know about. But first, President Trump, 113,000 migrant arrests thus far, over 100,000 deportations, 530,000 ordered to self-deport or face consequences, and border crossings are down 94% year over year, a historic low. So the left says, we got to find someone. We got to find, a gay makeup artist who's deported wrong. Oh, okay. We got to find somebody to prove that this is wrong because there could potentially be someone wrongfully deported. And they just decided to make one up. See this story about the deported innocent dad.
Right now at 4:30, we are covering the fight to bring a Maryland man back home after he was wrongfully deported to a prison overseas.
The Trump administration accidentally sends a Maryland dad to prison in El Salvador.
Back here at home, a deportation scandal is unfolding after ICE says it deported a Maryland father of 3 in error.
A Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
A man in Maryland deported to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador.
They have now deported a Maryland father on one of those El Salvador flights.
A stunning admission from the Trump administration. It admits in a court filing that a Maryland man was sent to the notorious El Salvadorian mega prison, all because of administrative error.
Sort of. There was one kind of administrative error. Let me just front load this for you. The man had no business being here. He was supposed to have been deported a long time ago, and he was involved with a gang. Okay? But did you notice how many times they refer to him as a dad, as a father? Because now they're the party of dads. As if they're looking to pull on your heartstrings and imply that someone who has happened to father children can't be taken from his kids for committing crimes. Here's another headline for you. Father of 2 and children's entertainer brutally arrested at his humble home in the suburbs of Chicago. See how silly it is?
It is.
Better painter than Hitler.
He was a father. He was a father. You know what? You know what pisses me off? We'll get into the details, but this guy knew from 2019 on he was going to be deported, period. He was going to. The only administrative thing that was there was not to El Salvador. That's where they say they screwed up.
Yeah.
He then has a family, knowing that there is a day that will come that he will be removed from this country. You want to be mad at somebody? You want your heartstrings to pull for somebody? Do it for the kids, because that guy, that selfish prick, did this to try to get to stay here and did not care about the consequences to his family.
Yeah.
So when he starts caring about them, I will.
I would add one thing even worse is he actually was hoping for those consequences to be a shield.
Yes.
Sympathy. So that brings us to today's installment of Claim Truth. As always, all references, the links are in the description. Click it right there. I encourage you to do more research. Here's the first claim that you'll hear. He was wrongfully deported. Even Trump admitted it.
A Maryland father with protected status who was wrongfully deported to that mega prison in El Salvador. The Atlantic first reported this story. It's now been confirmed by NBC News. Trump officials admit in a court filing the man's deportation was due to an administrative error.
So he was wrongfully deported. Trump admitted it. Here's the truth. No, he wasn't. He absolutely was supposed to be deported. So October in 2019, Abrego Garcia was ordered to be removed from the United States. I would say that's the first administrative error. I don't understand the ordered to be removed and not kicking his ass out. It's like, all right, okay, you're guilty of murder. I'll get around to it in 6 years. Don't leave town. All right, come on, straighten up. Keep your nose clean until you get sent to prison 6 years from now, all right? All right, come on, honor system, I'm trusting you.
Your lease is up, but go ahead and stay as long as you like.
Yeah, we're going to evict you eventually. That's the problem that we have. That's the red tape that we have to get through. This guy was determined to be a flight risk and a danger to the community. Bond was withheld. And this is the administrative error they're discussing. He was supposed to be spared deportation to El Salvador only, meaning he was supposed to be deported. He's not supposed to be here. And they said, because this guy may face some threats of violence in El Salvador, likely because of his prior gang activity, we'll send you anywhere else. So that's the only error. They want to make it seem like an innocent guy was deported. It's just, we won't send you to El Salvador. Now, that being said, does anyone think if he was ordered to be deported to Nicaragua or Honduras that it would be any better? So he wrongfully here, ordered to be deported, not El Salvador. He only ended up on that flight to El Salvador as an alternate. And if you don't believe us, just listen to CNN in a brief moment of clarity, kind of admitting it.
The government cannot remove him to El Salvador for fear of persecution in that country. He is still removable to another country, but he cannot be sent to El Salvador.
Why?
And if the federal government were to want to terminate that, they would have to go through an additional process in immigration court. There was a flight manifest, and as ICE was working through this flight manifest, they were pulling off names because of various reasons, they say. His name, therefore, was moving its way up on the list until ultimately he was put on this deportation flight.
So is that the quote-unquote clerical error that they claim?
Correct.
That it just moved up a list?
Also, she slept at her boyfriend's house and only had his shirt to wear. So it's just, they go, he was removable. That's kind of the key. Why? Hey, tell me about MS-13. What kind of crimes did they commit? In other words, do you think Americans would be outraged on the technicality of not El Salvador because the remaining criminal gang members with whom he was likely active have an axe to grind with him? If people understood why this man was a risk, why he was ordered to be removed, how outraged do you think Americans would be? The left, meaning the media and Democrats, they don't care about you because they want everyone of this man's ilk to stay here based on a technicality. And so, granted, that was kind of an administrative mistake, though it is fun to think of the moment he was on standby and realized what was happening.
Please, come on. No, come on. Ay, chingada. Well, he doesn't want to go hang with his homies?
I'm so glad we're not on YouTube anymore.
Oh, we'd be banned.
And by the way, none of this happens without you. If you like what you see, you want to support it, Rumble Premium. Click that button. You can join. You get an hour of additional show. You get Dr. Disrespect, Donald Trump Jr., you get Nick DiPaolo, you get Russell Brand, you get extended shows, and you get it ad-free. And we are funded by viewers like you, $99 a year. And you get this wonderful, this co-promoted mug. Mug Club is Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is Mug Club. Okay.
It's the only one. Don't break it.
Now he wants to break it.
Prototype.
All right.
Let's break it.
It's giving me some ideas. Here's the next claim that you'll hear from the left. They say he was removable. And in that one, that lady in boyfriend shirt knows, but she just sort of glides past it. But you will hear some people actively claim, wrongfully, this man is not a gang member at all.
He is not a member of and has no affiliation with MS-13 or any other criminal gang. And they're asking that the government stop paying for his custody in El Salvador and request his return to the United States.
Here's the truth. He was MS-13. He absolutely was MS-13. There's no doubt whatsoever. It is indisputable that Garcia was a part of MS-13. And it has been made very, very clear in the court documents, which I encourage you to go read. Here's a quote. The determination that the respondent is a gang member appears to be trustworthy and is supported by other evidence in the record, and the respondent has failed to present evidence to rebut that assertion. Although the government recognizes the financial and emotional hardships to Abrego Garcia's family, the public interest in not returning a member of a violent criminal gang to the United States outweighs those individual interests. In other words, he's a gang member, a violent gang. We know it. But because they use our empathy against us, there are going to be some negative consequences to the family. We see that. We want to consider the family. That does not change the fact that this man was a violent gang member. And I don't know if you know this, I'm willing to bet, probably irreparably destroyed other families through violent gang activity. Your false white guilt empathy ignores actual victims. And by the way, this guy is continuing to victimize people, as Gerald said, by putting his family into the mix. He only started a family after he was ordered to be removed as a way to try and stay. You see the problem with anchor babies? And in case you doubted the court records and you doubted the man himself, all you need is to take a look at his back tattoo. Oh, of course.
They're always.
It's always.
To people on audio, I'm not going to read it. Go and watch it.
By the way, the statement that they were reading on the news, I don't know if it was MSNBC or whatever they were doing there, it was basically from his lawyer. What else is he going to say other than he is not a member of MS-13? He provided no evidence of that, by the way. He just said he's not. You got to bring him back. He's not a member. Okay.
Sure.
Help me figure that out. We have evidence that he is. You can't refute that. I'm not asking you to prove a negative.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's looks like a gang member. We've got evidence that he is. Help me here. I don't understand.
Somewhere out there, a lawyer did say Jeffrey Dahmer was innocent.
That's true.
Someone said OJ was innocent.
That's right. Lots of people.
Well, so did the court, kind of.
They kind of, because the lawyer, because the media got in it right and turned it into a racial thing. That's exactly what's happening here. His lawyer comes out and says, he's not in a gang. The media goes, well, good enough for me. By the way, we also need fact checkers on new media and big tech platforms to ensure the integrity of journalism.
Right.
You took the word of the gang member's lawyer for it. Sorry.
What was his name? Joker?
Yeah. That's my mistrust of institutions. Just it's poking its ugly head out. I'm sorry, guys.
Work on that.
Trust your institutions. Here's the next claim that they'll make. It doesn't even really matter, but they also try and claim, which doesn't make sense if he was a gang member anyway, that he didn't get due process.
So for individuals like this gentleman right here, who's a father,
This gentleman.
I'm not going to sit here and die on a hill and say whether or not he was MS-13 or not. I'm not trying to be on Fox News or Fox and 5 in the morning because I simply don't know the answer to that question. But what I will say is that he deserved a right of due process so that we can properly adjudicate that.
Here's the truth. He received all of the due process to which he was entitled.
Yes, it already happened.
You just heard from his lawyer, right?
Yes. He has one.
So you know what that means? If he has a lawyer, especially a lawyer who's on cable news, that means he had a lawyer represent him through the process. I'm not going too fast for you, am I?
There are court documents.
Yes.
From courts.
And by the way, this also goes back. Remember when the left just like 2 weeks ago was trying to say these illegal aliens, they're not criminals. It's a civil infraction.
Oh.
It's not a criminal. Oh, well, interesting you should say that. So immigration courts and the judges, they're administrative and civil in nature, which means that there aren't any criminal courts. It means there are no jury trials and that the deportations are merely civil penalties, not criminal sentences. So let's go with your premise. And by the way, the entire immigration court system, it falls directly under the authority of the DOJ and the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Okay, that includes any kind of determination to be made about deportability for Garcia.
Yeah.
And even, by the way, the withholding of the removal to El Salvador, specifically that prison, that's the only determination that allegedly you could say is a mistake here. I'm sorry. I just don't care. I just don't care. And I mean that. Look, I support the death penalty. I didn't used to. And by the way, you can comment. I find that as a parent, as I get older, people are like, you become a big softie. I find myself definitely softening for the people I love and more emotional because I think I relate to more things as it relates to children, you know? And I find myself having far less empathy for anyone who poses a risk to children. So I support the death penalty because I know that personally that's something I would want to see if someone tried to sexually assault or kidnap or murder my children. That being said, I guarantee you, we all know that there have been some innocent people who have been wrongfully convicted. Sure. But that doesn't determine policy. And in this case, hey, you know, does it? And the left will try and act as though they're putting up these moral sort of blockades. Like, hey, yeah, but what about this? It's not a moral quandary. It's not. It's an emotional response.
Yeah.
What if there could potentially be an innocent person? Okay, you can apply it to everything. The same people who say, I'm anti-death penalty because it's immoral, will also tell you, isn't it worse to spend life in prison? Well, then what if an innocent person is sentenced to being sodomized for the next 40 years in prison. How is that any better? In other words, the logical conclusion to this idea of what if there's an innocent person means you don't enforce laws. Or you start off on this logic trail going, okay, do we enforce the laws? Of course, the answer is yes. You cannot find someone, even on the left, who will say, no, yes, we do. Okay, what's the most effective law? What is the right law? Let's discount the idea that laws are imperfectly applied. It's to get rid of people who pose a violent threat to folks in this country. Simple. There is no art, and I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care about due process for people who are not legal citizens. I certainly don't care about due process for people who are fleeing to this country because of their violent gang activity. I don't care if you have children. As a matter of fact, I think our policy needs to ensure that you are not incentivized to start a family as a violent felon in this country as a method of remaining here. Comment below if does that make me a heartless bastard? Then okay.
I hope this story gets out far and wide. I hope every single person who wants to come here and try to game the system like this guy did, I hope every single one of them hears about this tale. You want to father children and then abandon them because you've been deported, knowing that that was going to be the case the entire time? That's on you. I hate it for the kids. They didn't do anything wrong. This guy's the prick. Did this guy come and present himself at a port of entry to seek asylum in the United States, or did he get arrested and claim asylum? I think that's a really interesting way of trying to do it the right way. If you are fleeing persecution and you are saying, because of my political beliefs in my country, these gang members are coming after me. I'm not a member of the gang. You snuck into the country. You didn't come present yourself and say, help me. You came and said, I'll take what I want.
Yes.
And then when you got caught, you did something to try to make it harder to take you out of here. Democrats aren't for deportation and just found something that bothered them. They are anti-deportation completely. And they're trying to piggyback off of this lie and spin to get you to be anti-deportation as well. Do not be fooled by stuff like this. That's why we thought we would need to cover this. Every single time this happens, we're going to dig deeply in to find out what the real story is, because they're not telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, just to put a finer point on it, the same people who are crying, right? The same people who are outraged at the abuse of human rights here for a violent gang member who came here illegally and used his family as a legal shield to try and gain protected status. These same people are the ones who wouldn't stand and clap for Lake and Riley. Just remember that. Oh, you're still here? And you're still watching this on YouTube? You've probably noticed something is missing by now. I'm not here. That's because the Live Daily Show is now streaming exclusively on Rumble weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Tune in there, where nothing is censored.